Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have a guest, Alan Wright. He is a clairvoyant and author of 4 books, The Road Less Traveled, Through the Veil and Back, At the Edge of Infinity, and My Destination for the Truth. We're going to talk about astral projection tonight, speaking to the deceased, being an empath. He's got a lot of experiences in the paranormal. I love having clairvoyants, mediums on. He says he's a passive medium where the spirits come to him. So it'll be interesting to talk to him. And then we'll have open lines after the second commercial break. It's just the Skype lines tonight. That's the Soup Live Chat, 800 Live Chat Skype ID for the video call. Or if you want to call in audio only, it's the OO Bland OO Skype ID. We'll give those out later. Like I said, second commercial break. After that, we'll have phone calls into the show. And of course, what we do every Sunday night is the World Wide Web Weird. I can't wait to do that. So we'll be with you in just one sec. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup, and as I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland, and let me get up our share screen. For people listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are also a webcast. We stream out live to Facebook at our Facebook page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. We also have a YouTube channel, but not live on there. That's where we post shows probably 3 to 4 days later on that channel as an archive. But people watching on Facebook, we do stream out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, and you can listen a number of ways. You'll hear an advertisement for that later. Check it out, or just go to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network.com. Check out the website. Please donate and subscribe if you can find it in your heart to do so. That's how we keep the network going. Let me get my lovely co-host up here. Let me get the share screen up. All right. And still feel so out of practice. My voice is even an octave lower from still being sick. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
I'm doing well. Excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, I feel like we've been off and on because we had that big break, and then did a show. Then I was sick. Came back. Last week was a great show, but I could barely talk. My voice is still a bit trashed, but it's good to be back. And of course, we got Rob all the way from St. Augustine, Florida. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How about you?
Like I said, just still, even 3 weeks later. Still dealing with it. Like I feel like I'm like not the same person talking. That's my voice is like an octave lower. It's like just wrecked.
That doesn't want to let go.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. I still feel it. Ugh, it's so nasty. The damn flu. And all right, let's do what we do every Sunday night. Is the World Wide Web Weird. Tonight in the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with some ghostly stuff. I got a few of them here. This first one comes from Daily Mail. This is from a couple weeks ago. I'm behind on the World Wide Web of Weird, okay, guys? So there's some stuff I'm trying to catch up on. But this one I found really interesting. I wish I could play the video of it, but I only could find it on the website. Couldn't find the video. But I do have a picture of it. It is a woman who appeared as a witch during a paranormal investigation. Her face changes. You can find the website, Daily Mail. They have the video on there. But let's go ahead and get to the picture. And like I said, Late Night in the Midlands audience, if you ever want to check this out, we show videos and pictures. It's on our Facebook page. Check it out. All right. So this is from Daily Mail. Her nose has changed completely, almost like a witch. Ghost hunter films inside a Britain's most haunted house, and results freak them both out. But it's just a trick of the light. So I really wish I could play the video. I don't think it's a trick of light. It's either shenanigans or it's something. Because the way her mouth splits, I mean, I've seen digital distortion. I'm very familiar with video digital distortion, and that this isn't like that. It really isn't. It's a bit odd. Paranormal investigator Brad Mack was astonished to see a colleague of his own, known only as Debbie, transform into a hag. Nice thing to tell your friend. Hey, man, you turned into a hag. Transform into a hag while he and 5 others spent the night at the Cage in St. Ozith. I totally butchered that. It's a village in Essex. The property served as a prison for those convicted of witchcraft. That would be fitting in the Elizabethan era. Totally butchered that. And Debbie certainly seemed to channel its witch history, as a hidden camera footage shows her changing in front of everyone's eyes. Her nose becomes strangely pointed, her eyes darken with a malevolent grin, and her mouth seems to stretch into a Joker-like grimace. Like I said, if you want to actually see the video of this, dailymail.co.uk. When I share the World Wide Web of Weird on our Facebook page, I do a little short edit of that. I usually provide the links to the website to check it out. It is odd for people listening to the radio network. It's a woman, but you can see she's almost got like that Joker smile. Her eyes look completely evil, and her nose is totally pointed. And you see it like in a couple seconds, the transformation take place. And then she kind of like seems like she freaks out and walks away. It's really weird. Brad had already noticed his Mel meter fluctuate wildly when he sent the volunteers up to the most haunted room in the house, the master bedroom, at 3 a.m. one night last December. It was then that he captured the most terrifying footage he had ever seen. Not many unexplained lights flickering across the pitch-black room, nor 3 loud bangs, not even a loud growl. And his mate Dave, a fellow investigator, heard. No, what troubled them greatly was Debbie. Standing in a circle with her fingers on a table, she and the rest of her group stayed silent. Then Debbie undergoes the change. Not just the nose and eyes wise, but also her fingers, which become grotesquely long. Some might say almost witch-like. She was unrecognizable, and what I saw shook me to my core, Brad wrote. After a moment that seemed a lifetime, I knew I had to film this. I whipped out my iPhone, fully charged, thank God. Her nose has changed shape completely, almost like a witch, with a sharp arch in the bridge of her nose. That nose is not a prop, Brad continued. You can see it's like pointed. And after her ordeal, Debbie comes downstairs and begins clawing at her black back, complaining that it's burning. Her jumper is then pulled up to reveal her 4 long burn marks that look like fingers, along with 1 long burn mark going up the back of her neck, almost like she's been possessed. Modern technology is a wonderful thing, and with it comes a whole array of digital altering applications. But who are we to judge what really happened that cold night in December? It's either, like I said, it's either shenanigans or it's the real deal, but it is creepy. It is really creepy. All right, let's move on. Oh, why did it do that? It's trying to take me to Twitter?
Yeah, anytime you look over and you see your normal-looking friend turn into something like that, it would kind of be a freak out.
This takes me to Twitter. But this is a post on Twitter by James Mitchell, ILW. Taken at Ensfield Castle. Ensford, sorry, not Ensfield. Ensford Castle, totally butchered that. The photographer claims that nothing was there when he took the photo. I totally had the article get hijacked by Twitter that I had to read. So I don't really have an article to read on this, but if I remember from what I read, the article was a man and his son, and they were taking pictures, and they didn't notice anything at the time. This was, of course, afterwards that they saw this. So again, this is either shenanigans or misidentification. I doubt. I mean, who's walking around looking like that? It could be a woman with her back turned. She's wearing a black dress, maybe. They just didn't notice her at the time. Or it's a monk, or it's a ghost. All right, let's move on to number 3 here. This is another ghostly story. This comes from Fox News. This one has to do with a slain model aunt receives eerie calls from deceased niece's missing phone. The aunt of a New York model who was found dead on the road in Jamaica last year said she received eerie calls from her niece's missing phone. Peggy Berner told the New York Daily News she was prepping dinner Sunday when she received one call from the phone of Desiree Gibbon. Her late niece, Gibbon 26, was found dead with her throat slit in November. Gibbon's suspected murder was not solved, and her phone was never found. Bernard told the newspaper she got goosebumps after seeing who was calling her. Unfortunately, when she answered the call, the other end of the line went silent. She said she received second call just before midnight Sunday from her niece's phone again, but was not able to answer. Bernard said she tried to call back, but got a message that the phone was not in service. So that is odd. I mean, maybe it's the killer. Maybe the killer has the phone. But you also hear about phone calls from the dead, which is always something that's interesting to me. Stories of people getting phone calls from the dead. You know, getting even phone numbers like this caller ID, even recognize it, even though it's a number that's not in service anymore. You know,
Dr. Oz has even had some shows
really?
Regarding phone calls from the dead. Yeah.
Really? Dr. Oz. I've never watched Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz has a lot of paranormal shows.
Never knew that.
Check it out.
Really? Dr. Oz. I never catch the paranormal shows when I'm waiting in a doctor's office and they got Dr. Oz on. And I'm not catching the paranormal shows. I'm like, oh, stuff to make my hypochondriac brain worry about stuff. No, I don't need to watch this.
Lots of NDEs, and a lot of it, you should check it out.
Oh, Dr. Oz, huh? Never would have guessed. All right. Number 4 comes from Unexplained Mysteries. I'm a big fan of RoboCop. They use RoboCop in this picture. It's about Ford patents autonomous police car concept. According to reports, Ford was this month granted a patent for a type of autonomous police car capable of operating either in cooperation with an officer or completely on its own. The patent, which refers to autonomous police vehicles, describes a system that would monitor passing cars using a series of sensors to determine if a traffic violation has been committed. It also describes how police cars can wirelessly transmit details of a violation to the offending vehicle and record information, both about the vehicle itself and the person driving it. What is interesting, the system appears to be taking into the consideration the possibility of a future where other autonomous vehicles can be ticketed, even when there's nobody at the wheel. Bizarrely, this opens the possibility of a police chase involving no human drivers whatsoever. Whether the patent will eventually be made into a real system, however, remains to be seen. I just think of it, anything autonomous, drones or whatever, or doing police work. I think of RoboCop too. You know, the robot, like, like, you're resisting arrest. I'm not. I'm really not. And then you're resisting arrest, put down your weapon. I don't have a weapon. And then it just, like, unloads on you and you're flying over the table in a bloody gore. Yeah, I've seen too many movies.
I've seen the movie. I know how it's going to end.
Yeah, not good. Speaking of this, but then this next article may make you think maybe we do need robots as police officers. This comes from the Huffington Post. Toronto police officers call for backup after reportedly getting high on edibles. 2 Toronto police officers have been suspended with pay. Hey, they get paid, really? After allegedly getting high while on duty. The officers reportedly ate marijuana edibles that were supposed to be seized as evidence after raiding the dispensary Saturday night. Police told the News Talk 1010. CBC News has identified 13 Division Constable Vittorio De Manili, I butchered that, and his partner as the officers who are being investigated by the Force's Professional Standards Unit. They named the one guy, but they don't name his partner. How do you get out of it? The two were so high they started hallucinating, CBC News reported. One of them climbed into a tree. The partners called fellow officers for backup as well as an ambulance, News Talk 10 reported. One responding officer slipped and fell while chasing after her stoned colleague. She sustained a serious head injury, according to CP24. So, yeah, they might be in a bit of trouble. Yeah, Super Troopers 2 is coming out. Maybe they were excited about that. Yeah.
They're lucky that it was just the edibles. I know people that would actually use that as a base for, like, liquid LSD and such, too.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it was more than just marijuana in those edibles. They got spiked.
Yeah, so just to go eat something out of a baggie like that, I don't know.
Which they deserve. I know a certain somebody, and I'm not going to say it's not me. No. But I remember once somebody getting busted by the DNR, and then they went and smoked their certain something, and you could hear them doing it after they let him go because they took his stuff and smoked it. I know a certain somebody that happened to. I'm not naming names. Okay. All right. Moving on. Number 6 in the World Wide Web of Weird here. This is something I saw. I first learned about this, of course, from a TV show. I didn't actually read about it. But it was a TV show called Dark Matter. It had the guy from, what was that show? Fringe hosted it. And they covered, like, weird stuff scientists do. And, like, they showed how the government gave people syphilis or something like that. And, they showed all kinds of stuff, crazy, mad scientist kind of stuff. And one of the episodes they had, they talked about in the 1920s, a number of different scientists, not just one. were interested in trying to inseminate an ape or a chimpanzee with human DNA with human sperm and try to grow a half human, half ape. This is way before Planet of the Apes and, you get your hands off me, you filthy animal, Charlton Heston and all that. This was 1920s. This was before Nazis. And I think the Nazis would have been like, oh, yeah, great, a lower working class we can treat like crap. It's something mad scientists. My sci-fi brain loves it, but man, they are dangerous. This is more come to light because a renowned scientist claims a humanese was born in an American lab before it was killed by panicked doctors in the 1920s. And I've heard about this, but now I guess a certain evolutionary psychologist, Gordon Gallup, has claimed this story to be true. That he actually believes it's a true story, and he's a pretty credible person. Scientists claim that humanese was born in an American lab nearly 100 years ago before being killed by panicked doctors. Renowned evolutionary psychologist Gordon Gallup told The Sun that the human chimpanzee hybrid was born in a lab in Orange Park, Florida. Gallup, who developed the famous mirror self-recognition test, which proved primates could acknowledge their own reflection, coined the term humanese, which refers to human-chimp crossbreeds. The picture you see there is not a real human-chimp crossbreed. But a lot of people back in the day thought this one, but they actually tested its DNA. This chimp, it was in a circus and stuff like that, and found it was normal. It just looks weird. It could walk on its hind legs too.
Yeah, that place in Orange Park.
Really?
I know where that's at. Yeah.
Oh, he told the newspaper that his former university professor claimed the humanese baby was born at a research facility where he used to work. Gallup, who is also a University of Albany professor, told The Sun that the professor worked at Yerkes before the research center moved to Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia in 1930. One of the most interesting cases involved an attempt which was made back in the 1920s and was for the first primate research center established in Orange Park, Florida, Gallup said. They inseminated a female chimpanzee with a human semen from an undisclosed donor. Who did they decide that the donor was? We need a sperm sample from you. Yeah, we need a sperm for what? Stuff.
That's probably a big fat anonymous.
Yeah, big fat anonymous. Nobody wants to claim that baby. They inseminated a female chimpanzee with human semen from an undisclosed donor and claimed not only that the pregnancy occurred, but the pregnancy went full term and resulted in a live birth. But in the matter of days or a few weeks, they began to consider the moral and ethical considerations of the infant, and the infant was euthanized. You considered it after you did it? That's
after?
Typical, yeah.
That was a little late.
But it's common. It seems to be common in science, Oppenheimer getting all teary-eyed when the nuclear bomb first went off. I'm like, well, you bastard, you built it. Yeah, don't get all teary-eyed and get all poetic and talking,
But nobody thought ahead of time. What if this does carry to full term? What are the repercussions of this?
The first thing is, can we do it? They don't think about that. It's like, can we do it? Okay, let's see if we can. It sounded like a good idea at the time.
Madness.
Yeah. One of the people I know is a Russian biologist, Ilya Ananov. I totally butcher that. He was in the 1920s. He tried and failed to create a Soviet super soldier using human sperm and female chimps. And that's the thing. They want to either to create a workforce or soldiers. They would be like a second-class slave race. Not cool. Not cool. But I honestly don't think it ever happened. I don't think they could ever. I mean, yeah, our DNA is combinable somewhat, but I just don't think you could actually impregnate a chimp with human sperm. I just don't. I hope not. I hope that never happened. I hope it's just, the internet fluff never happened. But it's always interested me if it did. All right. That moves us on to our last one for the World Wide Web of Weird, because we got to get moving here. And similar is that the Chinese scientists, this is from Unexplained Mysteries, Chinese scientists create clone monkeys. Speaking of scientists, sounded like a good idea at the time. The controversial achievement, which some warn has taken us one step closer to human cloning, was accomplished using the same techniques used to create Dolly the sheep. Remember, a few month or so ago, we talked about how they found they really had no issues with Dolly, that they originally thought that was just regular sheep issues or whatever, but that the cloning process was viable, worked. Researchers argue that genetically identical monkeys could prove invaluable in the development of new treatments for human diseases. The two monkeys were born 2 weeks. Is that how you say that kind of monkey? Monkeys were born 2 weeks apart and believed to be doing well, according to Professor Robert Robin Lovell Badge of the Francis Crick Institute in London, however, the technique used to clone the monkeys remains a very inefficient and hazardous procedure. Ooh. You know, my thing is, you know, they're going to clone the monkey. What I'm afraid is when you start messing with the monkey, when you start messing with the monkey's DNA. Like, you know, how they were making the art, you know, trying to put semen in monkeys back in the 20s. Well, now they don't have to do that. Now they can just alter the DNA and let's put a little human in there. And now we got like little, you know, like furry talk to you pets that go, yes, master, let me get that for you, master. You know, it's not a good idea. We're going to, you know, create something that we're going to have to be responsible for that's going to have more of a consciousness. That's what would happen, you know, something like that. Yeah, and then the next thing you know, we got, you know, Charlton Heston coming back with the NRA, coming back from the graves. Get your hands off me, you dirty ape. You know, it's just, it's not cool. Scientists, you're not cool. Stop messing around. I'm not like, I'm a little bit mad scientist. I was actually my nickname in grade school. I have a little mad scientist in me. That sounds kinky. But, you know, there's got to be a limit. There's got to be a limit. All right, guys, let's get to our first commercial break. We're going to have our guest, Alan Wright, on, who is a clairvoyant and author. For people watching on Facebook, you're going to hear a little bit quiet because we play music out to Late Night in the Midlands radio network. So you will not hear the audio for about a minute or so. So don't freak out, but we will be back in just a few minutes. All right, guys. See you then. Tonight's guest is Alan Wright. He is a clairvoyant and author of 4 books. We're going to talk tonight about his experiences as being an astral projection, talking to the deceased, the experiences that most normal people don't get to have. Maybe sometimes you might have a little of a psychic experience. I've had a number throughout my life to make me a complete believer in the abilities people can have. And I'm always interested to hear from their perspective what it's like, you know, especially since they get an insight to somewhere most people all wonder about is the other side. All right, let's get to our guest. Are you there with us, Alan? Oh, okay. Sorry. Turning up the volume might help. Are you there with us, Alan? That's my bad.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. I hear you now.
Okay, great.
So, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I gave a little bit of intro who you are, but dive a little more deeper to who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a healer. I'm an empath. I'm a passive medium, and I'll explain that as I'm surrounded by spirits all the time. And it's like they're having a battle as to who gets to me and who can get my attention. Probably usually the stronger spirits. I cannot bring them up on my own. Most generally they come to me in dreams, but not all the time. Anyway, they present themselves by feelings that I get. And by those feelings, I can almost tell who they are and what they want. After I talk to, say, you for maybe a few minutes, a half hour, I can pick up on different things with you. I was talking to a guy one time who said that his twin brother died. And after talking to him for a while, I realized that his twin brother was sitting right beside me, in between my wife and I, as a matter of fact. And I told him, and at the same time, he was by his brother, and I told him his brother was there. And, he almost went silent, because I said, your brother wants you to know that he's with you all the time. And that, towards the end, I'm not going to tell you all of it, but towards the end, I told him that when he passes on, his brother is going to be waiting for him. And that's the part of being a passive medium. I'm also a sensitive. I pick up on things that people, especially if they're sick. Sometimes I get sick. My wife is the same way.
So
she's an empath.
You feel their kind of symptoms at all when that happens?
Yes, as, exactly. My wife more so than I do. She can actually get physically sick. Um, but anyway, I I was born in 1949. My mother, my grandmother, and I'm pretty sure my great grandmother were empaths and passing mediums also. They had these abilities also, and for some reason, it broke a generation from going through the women. It jumped to me, a male. But anyway, they had dreams and things about concerning their family and close friends, just like I do. And uh, as I get older, these abilities get stronger and stronger. As a kid, though, I saw an apparition one time when I was a kid. I also, you know about deja vu.
Oh yeah.
Uh, as a child, for most people, deja vu only lasts for a split second or whatever.
Yeah.
With me, it can last up to hours.
Yes, you're hitting for my childhood. That was one of the most. I had a lot of weird stuff. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me, but when you talk about deja vu, I had like a whole summer of deja vu, and
yes,
it led up to saving somebody's life. I was
really?
10 years old, and I went to a friend's birthday party, and that's when the deja vu got so intense, and I realized. To me, I think I've dreamt about it before. That's what my guess is. You know, I've dreamt all this. I've seen this. And I ended up stopping him from trying to kill himself at this birthday party. He was 10 years old and had a lot of messed up family issues. And ended up wrestling with him with a knife, which was just like my dream. Everything. It just turned out like, you know, just like everything. I know my feeling is I dreamt about it before. When you get deja vu, do you think it's because you dreamt of it before? That's my thoughts.
Well, I never had any dreams of it before. My thoughts is, I believe in a pre-existence. I believe that, you know, I'm not a religious person, but I do believe the Bible. And in the Bible, it says that this life is everlasting. And if something is everlasting, there's no beginning and no end. And I believe that we came from a pre-existent life. And I think sometimes that veil between this life and the pre-existent life gets so thin that you can actually almost, like myself, I could probably see what my life was going to be like in this physical life. And then when I actually lived it, I felt like I had lived it before or had been there before met those people before.
Is this like you kind of get a preview before you're born of what your life's going to be kind of thing, and you're remembering it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I told this guy.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I told this guy that had the twin brother that in the pre-existence, him and his brother were very close, and that they had formed a bond, and that's one reason why they came to this earth as twins, so that they could keep that bond and that thing that they had in the pre-existence, and they did. With the one twin dying, the other brother was pretty much lost. I mean, he felt it quite a bit. And when I told him his brother was still with him and around him, you could almost hear the pain being relieved through him when he was talking. And anyway, that's that. But as I got older, these feelings and these abilities, some people call them gifts, and I really don't like to call them gifts because sometimes I feel that they're curses. And but I call them my abilities. And as I got older, they got stronger. And my grandfather died in 1982, and at that time, out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences were just becoming popular, I should say, the names themselves. I didn't hear too much about it in 1982. And that's when my grandfather died. And 1983 is when I had my dream. I went to bed one night and I fell asleep, and all of a sudden I woke up in this room, and I was up in the corner of the ceiling of this room, and I was looking down, and I saw this doctor and this nurse, and they were talking about somebody that was laying on this gurney. And as I was paying attention to who was on the gurney, I realized that it was me.
Ooh.
And so basically, I think I saw my own death at that time. But then all of a sudden, I went through the ceiling and up through the roof of this building, which was the hospital in this town. And I started going up towards space, up into the sky. And as I got higher, I looked down and I could see the lights of the city, and I could, they were quite beautiful, you know, it's almost like Christmas tree lights or whatever. But then I started going up higher and higher, and I realized then I was in outer space. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But
I know how that goes.
as I looked down on the Earth, I realized well, it was blue, and you know that astronauts said that the world looked like a big blue marble, and that's exactly what I felt it looked like up there. And I was gaining speed, but as I was looking down on the Earth, I thought how beautiful it was, and I couldn't understand how a thing so pretty up there, so beautiful up there, had all these murders and crimes and rapes and wars and all the...
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? You there, Alan?
Huh?
Oh, we lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was afraid I lost you completely there. Yeah, it went quiet.
Oh, I'll be darned. Well, I was looking down on the Earth, and it was beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, how could something be so beautiful like the Earth, but on the face of it there was so much murder and crime and rapes and wars. I couldn't understand it. And all of a sudden a voice came straight into my mind, and it said, the Earth is fulfilling the purpose for which it was created. And I know that's deep, and at the time I was sitting there thinking about it, and it kind of gave me a feeling that the Earth was created, and it was created for a purpose. But anyway, I kept continuing. I kept gaining speed. I was at a high rate of speed at this time, and I was thinking about myself, the things that I had done in my life, and possibly I could have done things better. And then I started worrying about my family. How were they going to make it, and what were they going to do when I wasn't there without me? And this voice came to me again, and it said, it's because of the things that you had done in your life that you are at the place that you're at right now. And it said your family has to go through the stumbling blocks and all the hardships and everything that they go through, that you had to go through in order to be at the place you're at now. And I kind of figured that life is kind of like a test of some kind, and it's to build our spirits and to make them stronger. Anyway, I was gaining a whole lot of speed now, and the Earth disappeared out of sight, and I was among the stars. And I didn't realize that the stars were different colors. And I kept going faster and faster and faster, and the stars started to become blurs. And then all of a sudden, there was darkness. There was no more stars or anything, no more light. It was dark. And I thought to myself, oh, wow, where am I going now? And then all of a sudden, I saw this little tiny bit of a light it was a great distance away. And I could understand when people in these near-death experiences said that they were in a tunnel. But at that time, I didn't know how they would describe it. But I kind of felt like I was in a structure, but I wasn't. There was no structure there.
It's just blackness.
But anyway, I was cruising along, and I came up to this light, and I started slowing down. And I went into this light, and this light was love and compassion and charity. And it went straight through my body, every part of my body. That light went right straight for it. You know, human beings talk about love this and I love you that. There's no such thing as love as compared to this. This love goes straight through you. And anyway, I went a little bit further, and I saw this man, this being, and he was kind of like sitting on a rock, I believe, or leaning up next to it. And he had a robe. He was pure white, and this light was coming from him, and it was brilliant. And like I said, he was dressed in a robe, and he had long hair and a beard. And about that time, I passed out, or I blacked out or something. The next thing I know, I woke up in this meadow or a pasture. It had tall grass in it. And as I laid there trying to gain my thoughts, I could hear birds in the air and in the trees. I also heard water running in the background like a brook or a stream. And as I sat up, I saw a forest, woods, and this meadow went right up to the woods, and there was a path along these woods, along the outer parts of the wood, and it kind of followed the woods. Anyway, I realized then that I was standing in a circle of people, and as I looked around, I realized that those people were people that were my friends and relatives who had passed on before me. But the person that I concentrated on was my grandfather. And he was standing there, and they were all dressed in robes, white robes. And my grandfather, he could speak to me without moving his mouth through mental telepathy or something. And I realized I could do the same thing. I didn't feel like I had to, but I could if I wanted to. And we embraced and hugged each other and expressed our love for each other. And at the end of this dream, or whatever you want to call it, I was walking kind of like arm in arm or side by side with my grandfather on that path, and we were walking along. And that's the last he was telling me something, and at the time I didn't know what it was. But when I awoke in the morning, there was a feeling that I have never had before from a dream, and it still with me today. But back then, it was even stronger. It was almost like I was in the presence of God or something. And but I think my grandfather was trying to tell me maybe I could have done better in my life and focused a little bit on the good part. But there were other things that he told me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but they come to me as I got older. And there was a lot of things that the reason why I didn't remember them, or they didn't make them known unto me, is because I probably would have thought they were crazy and I was crazy. But now, as I got older, I can think upon them and realize that maybe they're not so crazy.
When did
you have any questions?
Oh, when you in your life did you go, okay, I mean, you've been having experiences since you were a kid. When in your life did you decide, okay, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to try to figure this out, or use this ability?
Well, I think it more pursued me than I pursued it. I didn't really have much choice in the matter. Like I said, these things came to me, like that dream with my grandfather. I didn't have much choice in the matter. I know my grandfather was a father figure to me. He was more of a father to me than my own father. We did a lot of things together as I was a kid. And when he died, that was a big hole in my life. And I think I had that dream also to let me know that he was all right. But every time, as in my younger years especially, those things came to me. I didn't actually seek them out. I've never had any training or anything like that. I'm not a professional. I might have 4 books written right now, but I haven't really made a dime off every one of them. I'm paying for the publishing of them, and I do it because I think it's what I saw and what I've done and what I've learned in my lifetime is maybe important for somebody to read, and maybe somebody's had the same things happen to them, and maybe I can help somebody out by them reading them and letting them know that they're not so crazy either.
Well, I know the feeling. I mean, like I said, I've had a lot of weird stuff over my life, and I've had instances where I was able to, I feel like something was communicating with me, and I was able to get information I shouldn't know about a deceased person. But I've always backed away from it myself. I've stuck to being a paranormal investigator and just trying to get evidence. One of the reasons is I've told this to my friends that are mediums. I feel like if I commit to it, I'm not going to get them to stop leaving me. They won't leave me alone when I'm talking about the spirits, because it's like you have to have commit. You do it. You're kind of committed to passing on these messages once you start doing it.
Yeah. Well, as I get older, I guess I'm becoming a wimp, and I'm letting those spirits go have their way with me.
Well, what's it like when they're trying to get you, because obviously they're trying to probably get you to communicate with somebody else that's living, right?
Yeah, like I said, I have spirits around me all the time. I can feel them, but they have to be pretty strong to get to me as far as me knowing who they are or whatever. I have names that come to me. I'm like a schoolmate. I'll haven't seen in years and years, and all of a sudden I start thinking about that person, and I'll think about him for 2 or 3 days, and then all of a sudden I've heard from somebody, or it was in my email or something, that that person had died, and I feel that that spirit from that person, upon his passing or her passing, came to me to let me know that they have passed. And a lot of times I feel that they've done that just as a, I don't know, as a, to let me know that they were and that they lived and they passed on, so to speak. And maybe I could let some people know that I knew that they had passed. That's happened I don't know how many times. Even when the person's lived in another state, I've had the spirit come to me that way.
I was just saying, how does the spirit come to you? Like, how do they communicate with you? Is it you hear them or see them, or is it through dreams mostly, or how do they communicating with you?
A couple of different ways. Like I said, their name comes to me in my mind. It comes to me, and sometimes I'll brush it off the first couple times, but after a while I have to pay attention to it. Other times it comes to me like a feeling, like that time with the brother.
You still there?
Sure.
Yeah, you got quiet again. I don't know if it's you stopped talking or if it cut out.
Sometimes I have a feeling, and like the brother with the twin, his brother was sitting beside me, and I could feel him, and I knew who he was just by the feelings that I was receiving from him. I don't remember any other ways other than that, but
one experience I had in my life, I know I held a picture of somebody who was deceased, and their first name. There was no name on the picture or anything. There was actually somebody in a coffin, and I got their first name, and then I wasn't trying; it just came out of my mouth. And then the people that knew who it was were like, "Well, try to get the last name." And it was like it's like your inner voice, but it's telling you something, like repeating. You're like, why am I thinking? It's like a loop in your brain, and it was like telling me the last name of this person. And I had it. I said it, and it was the last name of the person in the picture I was holding. Without no way to tell you. That freaked me out. When you hear the voice, is it that for you? Is it that inner voice that some people can mistake it as their own inner voice, but it's not?
Well, I know when my great-grandmother passed, I was born in 1949 and she passed in 1947. So I never met her when she was alive. Anyway, as a small child, I kind of had a dream where I saw her. She had milky white hair, and very light complexion. She was wearing a black dress, and she was wearing a pendant around her neck. And I was over at my grandmother's house one day, and she had a picture on her mantle, and it was that lady that I had seen in my dream. And when I asked my grandmother who that was, and she said, well, that's your great-grandmother. So I had actually seen my great-grandmother after her death. And that happens to me quite often. I have never received a voice from a dead person other than the ones that come to me and they want me to acknowledge them. Like I said, either a school, somebody that I've known, worked with, for example, or somebody I went to school with. They're the only ones so far that I've received, like you would say, a voice. They tell me their name. Well,
what I've always been interested to know is like how that works for you. Like, does it sound like their voice in your head, or is it, like I said, from my experience, it was like my own inner voice, but it was telling me the information.
That's the way it is with me. It's my own voice, but it's their name that's popping up. So yeah,
it's a weird experience. The one time that I really felt that I had it strongly, it was a really weird experience for me. It kind of freaked me out. So I couldn't imagine having that experience that often, as you do, and dealing with it.
Yeah, but then I think about somebody like Amy Allen or somebody like that on TV, where she sees spirits all the time. I don't know how they turn it off, and I don't know if I really would want to learn. No, what I do is just good enough for me, It's
that's always my fear. Is like you go down that rabbit hole, you start communicating with the spirits, or you start passing along the messages. One, how do you stop them from keep coming? Like you get a line of spirits that got messages, and two, like how your video. If you start seeing them, really seeing them, I don't know if I want that. It might go crazy.
Well, I had an experience when I was writing my. I'm sorry, my throat today.
Oh, I feel you.
I was writing my third book, and I use my smartphone. I write my stuff on my smartphone. I use my smartphone for everything. It's my computer, even.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I was writing my book, and I was done with this one chapter, and I went back to it the next day. And the chapter that I had just written was all garbled up. It had all these weird signs and question marks and everything. There was not one word in it. It was all these weird signs and stuff. And I couldn't figure it out. Luckily, I had sent a copy of it to my wife, and she had it on her computer. But the only thing I can think of is I was writing about this one spirit that had come to me, and I don't think he liked it. So he decided he was going to make it erase, type thing. And I know that was paranormal because I have never had that happen to me before.
It's like the spirit didn't want you writing the information down.
You want to know how I got started writing my books?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what got you into doing that? I mean, write 4 books. I've been trying to complete a book for years, and I can't get to do it. So it takes a lot of commitment. So yeah, what got you into writing the books?
Well, I told my wife some of the experiences that I've had in my lifetime, and she said, "Well, you should write a book about it." And I thought, yeah, well, like you, I didn't know how to go about it, number one. And, I just didn't know. And I was on Facebook. I had about 250 friends, and, and we chat back and forth and stuff. Well, one day I woke up and I went on Facebook and I had 5,000 friends. I was at the limit. I couldn't get one more friend if I wanted to. And I couldn't understand how that happened. And I was trying to figure out how to get rid of all those people where I could keep my 250 friends that I started out with. And anyway, I decided it would be easier just to leave it alone and just let them do their thing, and I could just talk to my 250 friends, Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I realized that most of those people that I got was in the paranormal field. There was mediums, there was ghost investigators, there was authors of the paranormal. There was all kinds of paranormal people on my friends list now. So anyway, I saw one day where this one woman was answering a comment, and she was the publisher of Stellium Books, and she was also the publisher or a publisher. So I waited for 2 or 3 days because I didn't have the courage to ask her if she took on new authors. And when I asked her, she said, sure. She said, send me a copy of one of your chapters, and I'll let you know. So anyway, I sent her a chapter, and she came back. She said, sure, I'll be happy to publish your books. And so anyway, I started out with book number 1, Through the Veil and Back, and that led to book number 2, At the Edge of Infinity. And then book number 3 is Roads Less Traveled. And then my 4th book, my new book, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, and that's My Destination for the Truth. So anyway, what I thought was going to be a one book has turned into 4, and I'm on my 5th book right now. And everything in them is true. If I didn't experience it, then I didn't write it. Besides that, I think an author, if he's writing about something that he knows about and has lived, he's probably be a better author that way. Me, I couldn't write science fiction or
That's why I can't finish anything, because my stuff's all fiction, science fiction and fantasy.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of dead novels. Now,
well, I think some people can do that, and they're good, They're really good at it. Me, no, not so good.
The truth is just as interesting, especially when it gets into the paranormal. Did you, before we go to our first commercial break, I didn't know if you wanted to share another experience or something maybe that's in one of the books, something you wanted to share, like a paranormal experience.
Yeah, my wife and I lived in a haunted house. It was back in 2007. We bought this house. It was a small house, just 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And we didn't know the house was haunted when we first moved in. And as we lived there, my wife especially started seeing things, shadow people up and down the hallway at night when we were trying to sleep. And all kinds of things was going on. And I remember coming home from work one day, and there was hundreds of flies in the kitchen and the dining room where they were in the windows, and they were these big old fat, juicy, disgusting flies.
It's like the Amityville Horror.
Well, they're blowflies or something, I don't know. They hang around dead stuff. I know that. And my wife and I, we have 3 dogs. And I didn't want to spray poison around there to kill them because of our dogs.
Right.
So I got out a fly swatter and I started killing them. It took me about an hour or 2 to kill all those flies. But I did, and then I swept them up in a dustpan and got rid of them, thinking that was going to be all. No, that wasn't all. For over a week, approximately 2 weeks, I was sweeping up those flies every day after I killed them.
Oh, my God.
And I realized then that we were living in a haunted house, and that was evil. Those flies were...
Yeah, it's not a good sign. I don't think it's a good sign.
No, it's not. Not a very good sign at all. Also, the title of that episode or that chapter is The Banshee on Dunlap Street. Ooh. And the reason why I called it that is because at night when I was sleeping, this thing would rush up on my ear and scream and yell in it, and it was a female. And she had spindly fingers and a long pointed nose, and she'd scream as loud as she could, and it'd wake me up. And sometimes it would happen 2 or 3 times a night. And I kind of figured that is where the flies was coming from. There was something evil in that house.
Well, you made the hair stand up on the back of my neck when you say banshee, because I have that one of my experiences in my life. I'm Irish, a lot of Irish in my background, and when I was a little kid, I saw a green floating head that screamed at me and my cousin. We both saw it. We were 4 or 5 years old, and it screamed as it flew through the room as a green floating head. Always been interested in banshees. So you say that, it gets, I get really interested.
Jason, you're more paranormal than what you think you are.
I've had a lot of weird experiences. Oh, yeah.
Well, this thing came rushing right up to me and screamed in my ear. Oh, man. And what we had to do, we finally gave the house a blessing. Me and my friend, we went through every room of the house and blessed it and everything. We got rid of the flies. We got rid of the banshee and everything. But we couldn't get rid of the shadow people. And as long as they didn't bother us, we didn't bother them. But anyway, we finally moved out of that house, and we moved to Utah. So, and
did you think? I have to ask you. You say shadow people, because that's another experience of mine. When I was 17, I had what I call a shadow person experience. It was very tormenting for 4 months, and I've known people that have benign experiences with shadow people. Do you think they were spirits of other people? You're just seeing them as shadows, or do you think they were like the actual shadow person phenomenon, which isn't to me spirits; it's something else?
Well, I kind of think they're spirits of people. Spirits of people.
Yeah.
And I also feel that these people, the shadow people, are the ones that has committed. I don't want to get religious on you, but I think they've committed sins like murder and stuff. Something that's going to be really hard for them to recuperate on. And I'd like to get back. I'd like to get on what I feel is heaven and hell, because I did visit hell.
Well, let's save that. Let's hang people on that and go to our last commercial break, and we can talk about that and see if anybody wants to call in and ask questions. Is that all right, Alan?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So, all right, guys, people watching on Facebook, like I said, we are on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. So we play music on there you don't hear on Facebook, so it might get a little quiet. But when we come back, we're going to talk about maybe, what it's like over in hell. Yeah. I don't know. It sounds scary. I don't know if I'd want to ever know if there's a hell, what it's like. All right, guys.
Go to hell.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys, when we get back, we'll take phone calls, too, so you can ask Alan questions about his experiences, or if you have a question about your own for Alan. All right, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Alan Wright. He's a clairvoyant and author. experiencer of the paranormal. If a lot of his stories tonight, I myself have had psychic experiences, and I've kind of backed away from them every time because they kind of scare me a little. This is a guy who's dwelled right into it. He's experienced a lot. We're going to talk about his experience when we get to him in a second about going and seeing heaven and hell. That's something I definitely... heaven would be cool. Yeah, I'd like to see heaven. I don't want to see hell. I guess I've seen too many of my own horror movies, like Hellraiser and stuff. I don't want to see hell. But I am interested to hear about somebody else who has. All right. We do have call-in lines tonight, too. The phone line's down. Don't call on the phone. Just Skype. So there's the Soup live chat, 800 live chat, Skype ID. You can call in. We can see you on video that way. Jeff's the engineer. Will take your call that way. Or there's the audio-only Skype ID, OOJBLAND00. That's OOJBLAND00. That's the Skype ID. You can call in. And if you call in and you hear us talking, just wait till we call on you, and then you can start talking. All right, guys, let's get back to our guests. You still there with me, Alan?
Yeah, I'm still with you here, Jason.
So when we left on the break, you said that you got to experience heaven and hell. So tell the audience about that.
Well, I believe where my grandfather was paradise. It wasn't exactly heaven, but it was a place where I would not mind to end up at. I felt like it was temporary. I felt like the spirits that were there was waiting to move on to something else. And I think those spirits were waiting to move on to something better. And I don't know how much better it could be than what they had. The colors in this place was bright, pure. The greens and everything was just, the trees and the flowers and everything was just perfect. And anyway, that was back in 1983. Now, what happened to me the Christmas before this last year, I went to bed one night, my wife and I woke up in the morning, and I tried to tell her what I had experienced during the night, and it made her sick, physically sick. But anyway, I woke up, I woke up in my dream, and I was on this path, and I was in this place that was dark. It was very dark. You couldn't hardly see your hand in front of your face. It was very dark. But up on this hill, I could see buildings, and I could also see buildings off to the right of this path. And I started walking along this path, and I had a feeling that there was spirits behind me, somebody behind me, and I kind of felt it was spirits walking behind me. Then all of a sudden, as I came closer to a bend in the road that went off to the left, there was a building off to the right, and there was the spirit hiding in the shadows of this building. And I had a feeling, too, that there was spirits hiding in these buildings and behind these buildings, wherever there was really dark shadows. So anyway, this one spirit kept motioning for me to come closer to him. And I did come closer to him for a bit. But then I decided that I wasn't going to go any closer because I didn't know what was on his mind and what he was going to do to me. And he kept motioning for me to come closer. And finally, I told him, I said, no, I'm not coming any closer. What do you want? And from what I could pick up from what he told me was he had killed somebody in this physical life, and that he was afraid that the person that he had killed was in this same place that he was in, and that's the reason why he was hiding. Now, this place was not only dark and dreary and miserable, but it had you could feel guilt and fear and all these negative emotions in this place. And it was just something that dragged me down even. And I picked up on this spirit that when he was in this life, he was married to this woman. And I used to go over to her house every once in a while, every couple of weeks, 3 weeks, when she called me to give her a blessing. She was mentally handicapped in a way where she got these really bad headaches. And I would go over and give her a blessing, which would relieve these headaches and make the pain go away for a little while where she could function, you know. But her husband did not want me. I guess he thought I was some kind of fly-by-night or something. And he didn't like me, and he didn't like me to come over. He was also abusive to her. There was times I went over there where she had bruises on her. And I knew he was abusive to her. But anyway, he would go off in the bedroom or the kitchen someplace when I was there giving her blessing. And then I would let myself out. But I'm pretty sure that this is the same spirit, too, that messed up my chapter in the book when I was writing it. Because I was writing about him when it happened. It was the same thing. So anyway, the only thing I can say is you don't want to be in this place. I would not be in this place if I had a choice. It's very, very bad. And after I woke up, this stayed with me for a couple of weeks after I woke up. I just felt down for that period of time, and I know my wife picked up on it also. She had to, because sometimes I answered her sharply when I didn't have to, and I just had like a guilty feeling myself about things, and it all was because of this place.
What it reminds me of, kind of, is the movie and is What Dreams May Come. Do you think it could have been like their own personal hell you might have experienced?
It could have been. I believe there's different levels of heaven and different levels of hell.
Right.
And I don't believe that hell's forever. I'm sorry. I've got a feeling when I was in hell, or at least afterwards, that those people have a way to move to the next level. But they're in that place for a long time, and it would probably seem like forever by the time they got out of it. But if you can change a bad habit or whatever, now would be the time to do it, because once you're in hell, that is a scary place, and it would be very hard for you to do that there.
Now the spirit that you encountered there was, I might have missed this, was this the abusive husband after he passed communicating you?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So, like,
yeah.
he did not want you writing about it, I can see, because that's, like, you know, it probably felt like, oh, that's our business, you know, don't put that out there. And guilt. Like you said, he felt a lot of guilt.
Exactly. Last time I talked about this on a radio show, my wife physically got sick. She had to throw up. She knows what goes on with me when it happens, and I think a lot of she picks up of it from me, you know. And it actually made her physically sick the last time I talked about it. But yeah, you don't want to go there. I also picked up when I was in heaven that the people there, like I said, are waiting to move on to a different level. So there's different levels. And anyway, that was about it. I'd like to talk some about my healing.
Yeah.
Unless you have some questions.
Well, actually, while you were talking about, you know, giving the blessing to the wife, and it helped get rid of her headache. What kind of, you know, I guess, you know, that's definitely something to talk about when it comes to healing. Does the blessing, like, just help clear the energy, or is it actually like trying to clear like a spirit attachment, or what was the blessing doing for her that it was, you think, helped clearing those awful migraines?
Both, I think, especially with her, she might have had attachments. She might have picked them up from him, or her
Right.
husband.
Yeah.
And there again, she could have been, from that too. She had bad energy, and she could have picked that up from him also. When I gave the blessing, of course, released that attachment and helped her where she could cope for another 2 or 3 weeks. I lost contact with her a long time ago. I don't know if she's still alive or not. Her spirit has not come to me, so I don't know. But his spirit has. He's been really rowdy out there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He didn't like you in life, and now that he can reach you in the afterlife, he's letting you know it.
Yeah, for sure. He dragged me down to hell with him. He wanted to talk to me.
Like, spirits, you come talk to me, and you ain't bringing me to your place. Not when it's hell.
Yeah, really.
So when so you talk about your healing, so what kind of healing do you do? Besides like you're giving her the blessing, what are you doing healing wise for helping people?
Well, I heal them from their sicknesses, their illnesses. I just bless them. That I use my ability on my wife and on my animals. I can bless animals. There's a dog flu going around right now, and our little Chihuahua got it, and she was throwing up and diarrhea. And I gave her a blessing. And the minute I gave her a blessing, all that stopped. It just plain stopped. And the same way with our other little Chihuahua, she got it also, and I gave her a blessing.
Once one dog gets it, they're all gonna get it.
Yeah, well, they pass it on.
Yeah.
It's catching. We didn't get it, but they and we have a male terrier, and he didn't get it. I don't know why.
I guess he's immune.
Yeah, my wife says he's too mean. But I tell you, this one time, I used to live in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born and raised there, and I lived about 30 miles north of Phoenix in this rural area out in the middle of the desert. There was probably about 30 houses out there altogether. Of course, when you live in a setting like that, everybody knows everybody else. You know your neighbor and stuff like that. And one day, this woman called my wife, and she told my wife that her daughter was in an accident the night before, and that she wanted me to come and give her a blessing. She was in the hospital. Wanted to know that if I would do that. Now, her daughter and her boyfriend was at a bar that was along this road, a really narrow road, and it had a lot of sharp curves and very steep dips and stuff like that. And anyway, while they were in this bar, they got into a fight. Well, she left, and he drove a Jeep with no top. And she was going to take the Jeep and go home. Well, he came out, I guess, and decided he was going to drive, and both of them were drunk. Anyway, he got in the Jeep, and they were going down this road, and they came to this dip. And at the top of the dip, they had a real sharp right-hand turn, and he was going too fast. And he tried to make it, and what he did was he just flipped the Jeep over and over again several times. And it threw her out. And when she landed, she hit her head on the pavement, I believe it was anyway. So anyway, she was in intensive care at the hospital down in Phoenix. And so I told her that I would go down and give her a blessing. So I called a friend of mine to help me. And we went down there, and we went to the intensive care unit, and we told them that this family wanted us there, that they wanted me to give their daughter a blessing, and that we were like lay clergy. So anyway, they let us in there, and we went back into the room where she was at, and you would not believe. I never seen so many wires and tubes and everything else that was coming in and out of her. She was on this contraption. It wasn't a bed. It had like legs to it, and they had her legs on the legs of this contraption, and there was arms on it too, and they had her arms on it also. And anyway, all these machines surrounded her, and we tried to work our way back to where her head was, and it was quite hard without stepping on the cords and the wires and stuff. But anyway, we made it back. And I had, when I do a blessing, especially one of that type, I use an olive oil, virgin olive oil. So anyway, we found a spot on her head that had a clearing without any wires or anything, and applied the oil. And I usually use, set words or whatever to give a blessing. And I was going to do that with her. They've always worked fine before. But anyway, this time, my mind went blank. I could not think of a word. I don't think I could even know my name at that time. I couldn't pronounce it. And I stood there, and I know my friend was wondering what was going on because I couldn't say nothing. And then all of a sudden it came to me. And I told her to respond to treatment and therapy. That's the only thing I did with my hands upon her head. And after that, that was it. I went home. My friend went home. And I went to work that afternoon. Came home, went to bed, and got up the next day. And my wife told me that her mother had called and was crying and all upset because she said that the doctors were going to take her daughter off from life support because she was brain dead. And I just knew that my blessing worked. You have a feeling when it works and when it's not. And I knew it worked. And I told my wife, I said, will you call her and tell her to tell the doctors to go ahead and do that? Take her off life support. And I'm pretty sure she didn't, but they did, and she did not die.
Yeah, I guess your wife like, yeah, I'll get right on that.
Yeah, really. But anyway, she did not die, and the last time I heard anything about her, she was married and she had about 3 or 4 kids, and they moved off to California. So I know that blessings work. When I bless somebody, almost the minute I put my hands on them, I know whether it's going to work or not. And it seems to be about 50-50. And why it's that way, I don't know. Why can't I bless everybody that's sick and everybody gets well? I don't know why. It is some blessings I give and they die or whatever anyway.
Well, you got to wonder. I mean, you're not God. It's got to be some people's time. It's just their time is up. It's sad, and it's hard for families to take. We do have a phone call in line. Hopefully, this is working. Right? Are you there, Zach?
I'm here, Jason. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Glad to get you in. Sorry about last week, Zach, when you were trying to call in. I don't know what was going on.
No, it's all cool, brother. It's all cool. I'm just really happy today. The Patriots lost, so I'm happy.
I'm happy, too. Tom Brady, suck it. But anyways.
Exactly.
So you got a question for our guest tonight, Zach?
I have 2 questions, but I can keep them short. Okay, Alan's very nice to meet you. My first question, I heard a theory that apparently when spirit guides come over to, I guess, try to give advice over to an individual, that their appearance, they appear like they're at the age of 30. Do you believe in this theory? Why or why
not? Yes, I do. They do appear to be about the age 30.
I've never heard that before.
And I don't know why. I just never gave it much thought before. But, yeah, you're right. They do. I don't know if it's a theory or not. I can only go by what I've dealt with. And what's your next question?
My next question is a personal question. I'll keep it short. I live out in Tempe, just right outside of Phoenix there. In my old apartment, I did have some encounters there that I really couldn't explain. Like, there was one time I felt like I was being held down on my bed. Another time I felt like someone was grabbing my arm and shaking it. And then another time, before I left, I heard voices coming from another room and all that. And when I open up the door to the bedroom, I see this big shadow just moving from one side of the room all the way over to the closet. And there was a mirror that was inside the closet, so couldn't really explain it. On your interpretation, do you feel that was something that was there before I had moved in? Was it something that was brought in there, whether it was by me or by someone else? What is your interpretation of that?
How long have you lived in the apartment now, Zach?
Well, my new apartment, I've lived there now since November, but I had moved in March, and I moved out at the end of October.
I see. Well, apparently, that must have been there when you moved in, I feel. Because I know when we moved into our haunted house, we were there a good while, quite a few months before they started getting really upset or started making themselves known. And why, I don't know. But you can bring things in with you, attachments. I've had that happen. In fact, in the house that we're living in right now, I kind of feel it was an attachment. Or there was an old man that lived in our house, and he died, and it could be the spirit of this old man. But he's not bad, though. He turns on the light. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, what he does is just benign things like turn the lights off on our front porch or our back porch and things like that. He doesn't do anything mean or anything like that. It's not like having a banshee in your house or anything.
Well, that was all the questions that I had. Thank you so much, Alan, for answering them. I greatly appreciate it, man.
No problem. No problem.
Thanks for calling in, Zach.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason. You all have a good night.
You too, bud. I think most people's encounters when it comes to living in a haunted house, a lot of times they are benign things, lights turning on and off, odd noises. But then there's other times, like the banshee experience you had, and, that it's not so benign. Now, do you get, take care of people's haunted houses too? Do you try to bless a house or get rid of negative entities?
Yes, I have. I had a friend that lived over in California. I think it was around Sacramento. But anyway, she moved into this house that was built back in the 1920s. It was 2 stories, pretty good size house. And we went over there, and she invited us in, and we were sitting on the couch talking to her and stuff. And I had a strange feeling, but I didn't know what it was. And anyway, she wanted to know if we wanted a tour of the house, and we said sure. So she took us around on the tour of the house. We went upstairs. There was about two or three bedrooms up there in the bathroom. Anyway, down the hall was this other bedroom. And when we got to the top of the stairs, that bedroom was off to the left. And when I looked down there, all of a sudden, I got all these things coming to me, bad feelings. And the closer I got to that room, I couldn't even go into it. I stood at the doorway looking in, and I did not want to go in. So anyway, after that, we went downstairs, and she had two daughters, and they came in, and we were talking, and one of the daughters said, "Oh, by the way, Mom, did you tell them about the ghost we have?" And I said, "Ghost?" And she said, "Yes, there's sounds like a baby crying all the time." And I'm going, I know where it's at right now. And I said, "If you want, I'll take care of it if I can." And she said yes. So immediately I went up to that bedroom and I commanded that bad spirit, that evil spirit, to leave the house and to leave that room and never come back again. And at the same time, I blessed the whole house. You know, I think it was a couple years later, got in contact with her, and in the course of the conversation, I asked her if she ever had a problem with the ghost again, or if she ever heard the baby crying, and she said no, she didn't. So apparently, what I did worked, But
I have a question on that too, because again, another paranormal experience I had is a friend who lived in a haunted house where you would hear a baby crying in the middle of the night, and I experienced that one night. I still get creeped out thinking about hearing this baby cry from this attic doorways where you could hear it come from, and I always wondered, pray that it's not like an actual baby spirit. It's like just a replay or something, that there's not a baby going through some kind of torment, a spirit of a baby. So in that case, it wasn't. It was a evil entity making that baby sound.
Yes, exactly. The way I feel is there's demons in that field also, or in that plane, and they can copy, and they can copy people's voices, they can copy kids, they can copy babies. And I think a lot of it, when these ghost hunters go on these places and they hear children or whatever, I think a lot of it is probably just an evil spirit that's copying.
I've gotten, as a paranormal investigator, I've gotten a lot of my EVPs are children's voices, which are, to me, the creepiest.
Yeah. I just don't see how. I'll tell you right now, I believe in God. I believe there is a God. And I feel I've seen him on at least one occasion, probably two, when I was in dream state. But I cannot see how a loving God, and I know he's loving because I went through that love when I was in the light. I don't know how he could condemn a child, a baby especially, to a death and to the same place where these evil spirits are at. I don't know how a loving God could do that.
That's my thoughts on it too.
And he can't. I really, truly believe that he can't do that. And what I heard, I know was an evil spirit. And I'm pretty sure what you heard was an evil spirit. And a lot of the things that ghost investigators pick up on are these spirits making noises like kids and so on and so forth. It's unreal.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had EVPs where the kid's saying full sentences and in a child's voice. I've had a child's voice come in reverse on a recording and turn around and says, "Can you hear me, mommy?" I mean, and they're the creepiest ones. Like, I can hear, I've had some very creepy stuff come from adult-sounding voices on EVPs, but the creepiest ones to me have always been the kids. They're the ones that freak me out because of that. It's like, if this is really a kid, how could God let that happen? I'm an agnostic. I question everything, but I do believe there's a higher power. But how can a higher power let a child's spirit be lost like that? And, maybe things aren't right. Maybe it's because there is evil in the world. There are child spirits that get trapped because there is evil. I don't know.
Well, I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I feel probably it's religion that's caused most of the pain and murders and things that went on in the world since its conception. But I do believe that, like you said, a higher power. If you don't believe in God, what I saw was a person. Maybe it's just a higher intelligence. You know,
Or they're
I
just
don't know. Maybe
giving you a representation you can handle.
Yes, right. I believe, of course, the dream or the place where I was at was everybody that I knew and my relatives and stuff. Maybe when you die, you be in a place where it's nothing but you and your relatives. My relatives won't be there. You know, I don't know, but when I went to my grandfather where he was at, it was just people that I knew and my relatives.
And you said that you thought they were, and it wasn't even heaven really, it was a transition place.
Yeah, it was like a temporary type place. I don't know how to put it. That's the feeling I got when I was there. It's like, you know, this place is not permanent. We're going to be moving on, you know, type thing. That's the feeling I got.
What's your you know, have you seen any evidence or have any belief on reincarnation?
Well, I don't believe in it.
Okay. Not everybody does. I'm just interested if you hadn't seen any evidence of that.
Let me tell you why is you have a spirit and I have a spirit. Everybody on this earth has a spirit, their own spirit. Now, they might be possessed by another spirit, but their spirit is in there someplace. When you die, you're not coming back to this place again with another body. It's just not going to happen. Why would you have to come back again? To learn some things you didn't learn the first time? Then how many times do you come back? Do you come back several times, 20 times or whatever? And what is the purpose of it? I don't see the purpose in it, but I myself, I go by what the spirits have told me too. And this is what I have learned in my progressions through the veil and back. We all have our spirits. And when we die, by the way, when we die, our spirit leaves us immediately. It doesn't stay with the body. It doesn't go into the ground in the cemetery. It leaves and goes to where it's supposed to go immediately. There's no break in the action. If you die robbing the bank, chances are you're going to be on the other side or inside the bank looking down at your body, because that's what happens. It happens immediately.
Real quick, one of the things I've heard from people and some people's beliefs and some people's near-death experience is that right before a big accident, they suddenly are outside their body and they see the accident happen to them. Like they're taken out of their body so they don't experience the pain and the trauma. I've heard that in
I believe
near-death
that
experiences.
if you're in a bad car accident or something like that, and I really believe that your spirit leaves the body because it knows you're going to be dead, you're going to be killed. And I really do believe that happens.
Yeah, I've heard these stories like that, and I've always wondered, if there's other side, and there might be spirit guides that are there to pull you out right at the last second, so you don't experience that horrible death,
Jason,
if you're going to die, have a great... Yes.
Go ahead,
excuse
Jamie.
me, I'm sorry. Jason, after this show, there's something I'd like to talk to you about regarding that topic later.
Okay.
I have some insight on that.
So what would be the difference between reincarnation and like a past life?
Well, that's the same thing, Rob.
Well, yeah. So...
back when I was younger, I used to play around with a Ouija board.
Uh-oh.
And that crazy Ouija board would tell me that in a past life I lived in the 1700s as a sailor, and I I would go places and all kinds of stuff. It just told me all kinds of things. Me and my sister used to play with it, if you want to call it playing.
Yeah.
And
Parker Brothers does.
And it told my sister that she was basically a prostitute back then too and stuff. But one thing I found out about Ouija boards, they don't tell the truth all the time. I found out if you know what the truth is and you ask them the question, knowing that truth, they will tell you, and it's true, most generally. They can tell you how many kids you have. They can tell you how long you've been married. They can tell you a lot of things that you know are true. But the minute you ask them something that's not true, they're going to lie through their teeth. And I believe that a Ouija board is possessed by an evil spirit, a demon, if you will. I know the more I used that board with my sister, the better we got at it. We got so good at it that we had to have a third person there writing down the letters, so at the end we could break it down into words and sentences where we knew what it was saying, because it was going so quickly. And towards the end, before I quit playing with that board, I realized I was pretty close to becoming possessed by it. And I decided that it wasn't worth it to me anymore.
Well, with your abilities, it's like, handing a piano to Mozart, or somebody that's, has an ability, a psychic ability, and give them a Ouija board. Yeah, you guys probably were getting a lot from it, and you're right. All my experiences with Ouija boards is that, if you want to test them with something they'll tell you, and you'll be like, oh, wow, and then they'll straight up lie to you about anything else, just to keep you. I think it's just to keep you going with it. It's entertainment to them, or whatever it is, to keep you ensnared and to keep using it.
Yeah, I just don't believe in a past life. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They say that the people has lived in past lives and they have a fear of water because they drowned. All this stuff. I don't know. I think a lot of it's caused through evil spirits. It's like those evil spirits, or those spirits know your names as a ghost hunter. You go in a place that's haunted, and the ghosts already know your name, even though you've never been there before. Why?
And they know your kryptonite, too.
Yeah, true.
How can they do that? It's because they've known you. They've probably known you all your life. They probably know more about you than you do. And they can be in a couple places at the same time, or just about the same time. And you can go into a haunted house in Massachusetts, and they know your name, and then come down to San Francisco, and they know your name there too. So what's the deal? They just know that, and they pass it on.
Well, I would say they read your mind. I really think they just read your mind.
Well, exactly true. They probably do. I myself have brought home. I've had attachments while I've been writing my books. How do you explain that? I don't know.
Are you channeling them while you're writing your book? Are you like, so that you feel like they're trying to influence you while you're writing your book?
Well, I come away with a different spirit after writing, say, a chapter than I did in the beginning when I started writing it. My wife even notices it. I have a different mood about me, a personality, like, and we have to sage ourselves and our house periodically just to cleanse it. Like I told you, I have spirits around me all the time. Like you said, though, it would be a good idea not to let them in all the time. And that's what the Ouija board was. It was basically an evil spirit that was trying to get a hold of me. And thank God I had the ability to keep it from doing that. But at the same time, I had to quit using that Ouija board. Funny thing is, just before I quit using it, well, I didn't have a choice with that board. I would have had to went out and buy a new one. But somebody knocked at the door one night when my sister and I was working the board. My mother happened to be writing down the letters and everything. Anyway, this person knocked at the door, and the Ouija board spelled out, "Who is that?" And when my other sister answered the door, she said, "Well, it's I forget her name." She said, "Well, it's so-and-so from down the street." And the Ouija board spelled out, "Tell her to leave. I don't like her." And like I said, I was kind of pissed off anyway, and I wasn't going to use it much longer anyway. So I took out my cigarette lighter, and I lit the corner of the board and made it smoke.
Ooh.
And boy, he did not like that at all.
Not a good idea to set a Ouija board on fire, in my opinion.
Well, it is not. If you have a Ouija board, keep it someplace out in the storage room or something. You don't want to set it on fire or whatever.
No.
Because
Bad
I think you release the energies that's in that board, and they are not nice.
Yeah, no, never ends well. When I heard people burn Ouija boards, that's when things really get negative and bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to learn things on my own, you know.
Learn the hard way. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I messed around with Ouija boards, too, when I was young. And, had some weird stuff happen. But I eventually was like, okay, I'm not messing with these things anymore. Because, like you said, I don't feel they're truthful either, you know.
Oh, no, they lie. They lie. No doubt about it. You can ask them 10 questions that you know the truth about, and they'll answer it truthfully. So you think, oh, okay, they can tell the truth. So you ask something that you don't know about, like, am I going to get a promotion at work? Or, something like this. And they'll lie through the teeth. They'll say, yeah, sure, you're going to be promoted in next year and all this stuff. No, it just never happens.
One of the things is I think they say it's the Ouija board says stuff to get emotional responses from people because I believe that whatever is there is feeding off your energy.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, they know what energy you have on you at that time, too. They feed off from it pretty well. I was going to tell you, my sister and I, this was 25, 30 years later, she had been married and her husband died. His name was Tom. He was a open-door machine gunner in the Vietnam War, and he sat on at the open door when they were spraying that Agent Orange.
Oh, God.
And he said that Agent Orange would come back into the cabin where he was at, and he was breathing that stuff, and he said he was covered with it. Anyway, he died from cancer, throat cancer, years ago. But anyway, my sister, when we went over to her house, she was having a family get-together, and she said, guess what I found, Alan, in the closet? I said, what did you find? She said, I found that old Ouija board. I said, you did? I said, you're kidding. She said, yeah, let's try it and see if it will work.
Is this the one you tried to burn?
Huh?
Is this the one you tried to burn?
Yeah, and it worked.
Oh, man.
It worked. We started, and it started out spelling things almost like we never quit. Anyway, she said, let's ask it if it knows what my husband's, Tom's secret name he had for me. And it spelled out baby. It hit her right through the gut and through the heart. That brought her back to her late husband instantly. And she broke down and she was crying. She had to leave the room. And I think that's evil spirit. That spirit knew that that's the reaction she would have to it, and that's the reason why it did it.
Yeah,
exactly. One of its functions is to hurt people.
Yes.
And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. If it was a good thing, why don't we have more winners for the lottery?
Oh, I
Why don't you
experimented
ask
with
the
that.
keyboard what the numbers are?
I
I
experimented with that, Alan. I'll tell you really quick. We tried this. One of the last times I ever really used a Ouija board was when I first got married and we were living in this apartment or this house apartment, and my cousin was there too. And we knew we were moving out. We're like, let's go ahead and pull out the old Ouija board and see if we can get some lottery numbers. I swear to you, I ended up winning $100 off of this. It gave me like 4 numbers, and then the last 2 and the Powerball were all each off by 1 digit.
Really?
Yes. And me and my wife were like, should we do it again? I'm like, no. It did this on purpose. It did this on purpose because it wants us to come back and do it again. And it'll keep maybe giving us winning. It might get us winning numbers, but I don't know if the price we pay is worth it.
Well, there too, you might bet next time a whole bunch of money on it, and you lose everything.
Right.
You think, oh well, I won $100 now. Maybe I can win more next time. They're don't do anything but badness.
I really felt that's what it was doing. It was like it wanted to show me, I can give you the money. Come play again, and that's what I was like, no. It creeped me out because I really expected it just to turn. When he gave us these numbers, I really expected to get nothing, like hit nothing, like just swing and a miss. And when it was that close, it's, some people are like, oh, I'm going to do it right. I know a lot of people would probably go, I'm going to do it again. But my paranoid brain was like, oh.
That's selling your soul to the devil.
Right. That's how I felt about it. Like, if this is your chance to get out, you go and do this again with the Ouija board. You might win a lot of money, but you're going to it's going to end up really horrible and bad. Like, it's going to be a deal with the devil. And that's why I never went back and tried again. I know some people are like, oh, you're crazy. I would go back and try again.
Well, if a spirit knows your name wherever you go in these haunted houses, why wouldn't a Ouija board know the numbers? That's what I'm thinking. Know all the numbers.
One reason I thought the spirits might never be able to totally predict the future or give you the lottery numbers right off the bat is that the future is always in motion, as Yoda would say in Star Wars. And even numbers and randomness is in motion. They might not be able to get it all for you because it's in motion. The future can change. Even random numbers can change.
Well, that's probably the reason why they can't tell the truth when you don't know about it, is because it's something that you haven't experienced yet, and the whole universe is in chaos or whatever you want to call it, and maybe they just can't tell it because it hasn't happened yet.
Or the fact that is if they tell you something about the future, then that could change the future, and then it's just
exactly.
what comes first, the chicken or the egg. It's always said is that I've always loved that line in Star Wars. Yoda says is that the future is always in motion, and that's why we do spirit box experiments once a month, or something maybe every other month on this show, and there's definitely people call in and ask predictions about the future and stuff like that, and we always say I wouldn't trust anything they say about the future. Of course, they did tell me like 3 times Trump was going to win the election. I think we asked that one quite a bit during the election season, and every time it never said Clinton, it said Trump every time.
Really?
Yeah.
I really think it's so that because it hasn't happened, they just don't know yet. But if an event has happened, they can gather that information for you. But like you're saying, it's always in motion. It's always changing.
Yes, exactly.
Well, but we're almost out of time, Alan. I want you to make sure you get your information out where people can, find your books. I don't know if you want people to contact you or not, or whatever information you want to get out there to the audience.
Well, like I said, I have 4 books. I sell them all on Amazon, and I'm trying to find it here real quick here. I guess I'm not going to be able to. Nope. But if you go to Amazon.com, run a search for either my name or for the book you would like to read, you can get it there and pay for it there. I'm also a Goodreads author. If you're a member of Goodreads, or you can join, and it's free. They have about 2 to 3 million people in the world that's members of this, and go and there again, run a search for my name or a book, and you can even buy it right there with a link that's there. But anyway, buy them because they're true. You don't get too many paranormal books out there where the events are true in them. And they're good. Of course, I'm prejudiced.
Well, it's your paranormal experiences, you know, and you obviously had a lot to fill up 4 books and soon to be a 5th one. So, you know,
Exactly.
and that's why that's why I do this show. I love to be able to talk to people about their experiences. I've had a lot of experiences. Of course, I just always feel like, oh, I can't put that all in. I don't know how to make that all into a book, tie it all together. It's all so crazy. But so I'd be interested to see how you do it, to read your books. But thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been an excellent guest. Love to have you back on. And, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I have other things I didn't even tell you tonight, so.
That's what I'm saying. We got to have you back on. 2 hours goes by quick, you know, for an hour and a half for the actual interview, but it goes by real quick.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. You have a great night. And like I said, we'll get you back on again and talk more.
Okay, thank you. I'd love to be back on, by the way.
Definitely got to get you back on. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for the show. Let's see who we got next week. I forgot to look at my notes. The bad host that I am. Who we got on next week. I think I know. I did know. I was right. I should have just gone with my gut feeling. Jimmy, I'm sorry, Jimmy, if I butcher your name. I know I've heard it on TV. Jimmy Panito. I've probably butchered your name. You're Penanito. Check out, you know, you've seen him on other haunted shows. Hostage to the Devil. He's in that documentary talking about Malachi Martin, another name I'm the butcher. I've been wanting to have this guy on my show for a long time. He's also a radio host himself, paranormal investigator. He's definitely dealt with the demonic. Watch Hostage to the Devil. It's a great documentary. So we'll talk about that and all of his other experiences. I can't wait to have Jimmy on. He seems like such a cool guy. And thanks, guys, for watching. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. Go to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Subscribe and donate what you can. And always subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out our large library of shows. This was episode 124. We keep on going. Thanks, guys. See you next week.